The Hedgeless Horseman here again, second video, October 17, 2023. Last video took way longer than I expected, so I actually, well, that's not a surprise first of all, but still. So I'm gonna do a part 2 video instead. Let's start off with Condor Resources. As some might know, this is excuse me, this is one of the most fascinating drill plays I have ever seen, and the plot has thickened quite a bit recently, because this used to be a very quiet company. I mean, here you have, you know, the drill rig at Pucamayo, which took, I don't know how, I mean, 3 years ago I think they got the permits to drill it, but it took until early October, 6th of October, to actually be allowed by the community to drill it. 3 years. Before that, one update, 28th of July, June. So I mean, yeah, they're let's say they're not that communicative. So it's like all of a sudden they're quite talky, okay, or chatty. So yeah, 6th October, small portable rig in use at Pucamayo, and I hope I don't need to recap the whole story. I've written a piece on Pucamayo. I think it's just almost, I'm not going to say absolutely unique, but pretty much one of the most unique stories I've seen. Just in short, well, let's look at the presentation. Okay, so we have a high sulfidation epithermal system. So the idea is that here's the high sulfidation target area. The idea is that this might be a, I think it would be this is chargeability, that there might be a blanket type deposit, just like Pierina, which is was a very famous mine and discovery. So here you have the actual ore body outcropping its surface. I think it goes for 800 meters. Let's see here. This actually runs farther away, but there's like an outcrop of 800 meters, and you can see some of the channel samples. Obviously mineralized, even though it's at surface. And typically one would expect that the grades would have been leached out, and the same kind of thing happened at Pierina. As far as I understand, that they find kind of a, you know, chip or soil anomaly, which graded around, I don't know, up to, I mean, over half a gram on average, maybe up to, I don't remember, but still, I mean, when they actually hit the ore body at depth there, the grades were many times higher. So it's like, even though this doesn't look, I mean, superb, these are very good. I mean, obviously it's like 340 grams per ton Ag. That's high grade, and almost 1 gram per ton gold. But still, my point is, this is this is outcropping stuff, weathered stuff, where you don't expect to have high grades, even. But they're finding, like it says here, they expect it to be 100 to 120 meter thick blanket type deposit, and the brecciated Vuggi silica, which is typically the main ore zone in high sulfidation epithermal system, is here they say it grades 1 to 1.5 grams per ton Au, 100 to 200 grams per ton Ag. Not 100% sure what they, if I mean, here's like 0.6, well, 111. Well, okay, I guess they rounded a bit. Still, and obviously some of the silver results are even higher, so maybe that's actually a mean average, which would be great, because that's like, I mean, this is over a gram per ton alone, so that would be just 2 grams per ton, and it's like if you go to the higher interval, that's like, let's say 2, so all of a sudden you're up to 3.5 AU equivalent grams per ton. Okay, why is, I'm gonna go back here. Okay, so what has happened? Well, they started with the drill rig here, Pucamayo, and apparently the first hole is colored here, pretty much. Right above the outcropping where the mineralization outcrops. So let's say they put a drill rig right here. And here you got the outcropping paleo water table, which is the expected ore zone. Okay, great. I mean, how do you miss that? You already know there's mineralization here. Still, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the drill campaign was expected to be 2,000 meters, I think, over, was it 20 holes? Well, let's actually check. A second. 2,000 meters and up to 15 drill holes. Okay, yeah, they give a range. 2,000 meters, 15 drill holes, up to. Average, if they would have drilled 15 holes, average drill depth would be at 133 meters per hole. And one thing that's even more intriguing, I would say, is that obviously if as what it looks like, they're actually putting the drill on the outcrop. If you look at the this slide here, for example, let's say this is the yes, as it says, dips under the hill slope. So here, let's say you have the roof of the ore zone. If you go farther away from that, which I assume is to the east, there's more overburden. Which means, who knows, maybe it's like 50, 100 meters just to get into down to the ore zone, whatever. So if they put a rig right on top of this outcrop, there should be no to very little or very little to no overburden. So one would expect, with the expected thickness of 100 to 120 meters thick, in terms of the, ore zone blanket, if there is an ore zone blanket down there, this first hole ought to be one of the shortest holes, maybe 100 to 120 meters, assuming there's no overburden and assuming it is actually 100 to 120 meters thick. Well, look at the news release, Twitter updates from the company. 11th of October. The maiden drill program at Pucamayo East project commenced last week, and the first hole had advanced to about 200 meters late Tuesday. Well, that's already past the average expected drill depth if they would have used 15 holes, or they would have drilled 15 holes for 2,000 meters. And it looks, if this is correct, it looks like they're actually starting where there is no overburden. So this would be, again, expected to perhaps be one of the shallowest holes. Well, that's intriguing. Why are they drilling deeper? And why are they communicating that they're drilling deeper? Most juniors, if they're not finding anything good, they don't want to talk about it. You've seen a bunch of juniors where it's like the exploration project or campaign is started. You don't hear anything. Not even when you expect to hear something. No updates. Then all of a sudden it's like way past when you would expect an update. They come up with like, okay, we assays are bad or whatever. Because typically, let's say, we're gonna drill 20 holes or 10 holes. If they don't find anything on the first hole, they're not going to talk about it typically. If they don't find anything on the second hole either, they're probably not going to give an update. They're not going to go out there and say, oh, by the way, it looks like the campaign is going crap. Better sell now. No, typically they wait until they find something good, if there is something good. Like if it's the 10th hole that's actually good, then they'll wait until the 10th hole and put that out. Or the 9th or whatever. You know this to be true. I mean, that's happened a bunch of times, and I'm typically, I don't know, I guess I'm a bit naive. I'm just thinking, well, there's probably other reason, whatever. But it's like time and time again, we see that stuff takes a long time for an update or assays. They tend to be bad because the longer it takes, probably haven't hit anything, and we know that most juniors are very inclined about parading if they see something good, visuals or whatever. So, and this is a pretty low-key company. And all of a sudden they're talking about, hey, they're not saying that outright, but it's like, this is obviously beyond what one would have thought, that the depth of a hole that started colored here, where there is no overburden, they're past what one would expect the depth to be there. And then 5 days later, they're still in the same hole. And it's not just that, okay, I mean, if they would have said, I don't know, we're at 230, I mean, they might have problems with the rig or whatever, because nothing goes that slow. But it's like, they're down to 300 meters. So they're way past the average planned drill depth on the first hole. And it's expected to have little overburden, which is very interesting. And of course, every single tweet or communication, there's intent behind it. There's a reason why they put out these updates. Question is, okay, is it because it looks bad that they're like, just so you know, market, we have yet to find. I mean, that's like you get that from poker, because every single, how big one person bets, how long it takes for them to bet, whatever. It's like everything you're trying to, like a detective, you're trying to get in to the other person's mind to figure, because there's a reason they took 3 seconds to bet, not 5 seconds. There's a reason why they bet 30 big blinds, not 20 big blinds, whatever. So you try to come up with a scenario in your head, what the guy was thinking that led him to take that action. What's the intent behind it? What's the motivation? Why did he bet that much, that quick, whatever? How is his thought process right now? Okay, okay, this must mean he has, I don't know, top 2 pairs or whatever. Or he's trying to lure me in. It's like, or he bet so quickly that he's probably bluffing, or whatever. So you're trying to figure out why actions, what's behind, what's the reason for some actions. And these are actions. Putting out tweets, updates, that's intentional, obviously. It's not automated or anything like that. So there is a reason why they wanted people to know this. And the question is, again, it's like, devil's advocate, would you put this out if things are going bad? It's like, actually, we haven't found anything yet, which is kind of hard to believe, given that they should be drilling pretty much at where they know, there's mineralization. So, I mean, if they haven't hit anything at 300 meters, that's kind of weird. If it should start they should be in ore, from the first meter. And would they be talking about, like, because this is obviously, they want attention. They're putting this out to, they hope people see this. Would they do that if things are going bad? If they're not seeing anything? Would they be very motivated to update the market that, hey guys, since we're drilling this deep, we're probably not hitting anything yet? And for whatever reason, let's say, they obviously deviated from the plan by quite a bit, because the average hole depth was supposed to be 133 meters, let's say. They're going way beyond the plan on hole 1. So the question is, would you be that desperate to throw more money at the first hole if it looked bad? I don't think so, because they have planned up to 15 holes. They could wait for, hey, okay, it doesn't look like we're hitting anything here, so we better, move the rig quickly, immediately to, try to locate where there might be a good zone. Now, this sounds like, to me, there's like two options. Either and the drill pace as well, because it's like apparently, given that it's supposed to be silicified, if you're in the ore zone in these kinds of systems, drilling should be quite slow, because silica is very hard. Okay, yeah, it kind of checks out. Took several days to drill 200 meters, maybe 30. I think it might have been 40 meters per day, whatever. And we don't know, of course. It's assuming that, or that's the average. Maybe they drilled parts of, parts of it at a rate of like 60 meters per day, and then all of a sudden they hit and it went down to 20 meters, and then we have an average of like 40 meters. So it's hard to say exactly what it means, because again, it might be, some areas might be slow, some might be quick, and the average comes out to 40%, whatever. But it's not the quickest pace, which is a good sign. And yeah, so two options as I see it. Either, there's a bunch of variations of scenarios. But first of all, this has a positive skew on it, because they want to update. That's typically when visuals are good, let's say, that's when juniors talk about it. They try to draw attention to them. They try to generate hype, obviously. And this is a typically very quiet company, which makes it stand out even more. I was surprised to see that they actually updated the drill depth. So it's like, when a quiet person actually says something, then it should have more meaning, if you know what I mean. There's bigger motivation behind it. But either they've maybe gone through the war zone, or potential war zone, I should say, through the, paleo water table, whatever, might have hit nothing all the way to something, and then they go deeper just to have a, hey, since we're here, let's try to hit the potential porphyry at the first, in the first hole. The problem with that is that I think the hole that's being drilled right now is this hole, PUC 019. This is, I think, the hole that's being targeted right now. Here it says AUCU porphyry target area. So one would not expect that they would be go looking for the porphyry perhaps up here. And here you have epithermal high sulfidation ledges, and this is colored right into it. Again, this is supposed to probably be one of the shorter holes, because up here it's probably more overburden. And they're going, I don't know, let's say, this might be 200 meter, whatever, but it's like, they're down here already. So, question is, why are they doing that? Did they pick up some porphyry mineralization? Did they just want to drill porphyry mineralization? And the question is, why are they updating? Because if they just went for, hey, we're gonna do a Hail Mary, and they didn't see much, and they thought it's like, okay, we haven't hit that much, whatever, we're gonna go for the porphyry. So let's say the mineralization stopped at 100 meters. Would they have gone to 300 meters, 200 meters, and talked about them getting to 200 meters? Because if there would be a gap, my point is they're incrementally updating the depth. Which would you do that unless it's like you're kind of trying to hint that's like, we're still in mineralization, guys. Now it's, we've hit this thing down to 200 meters. Now, now it's past 300 meters. Would you do that if it stopped at 100 meters and nothing for our next 100 meters, and you were for some reason going past 300 meters just to have a Hail Mary at a porphyry? Now I think Occam's razor, again, taking the poker stance here, it's like, What were they thinking when they made these updates? What makes most sense? To me, what makes most sense, especially since they're incrementally surprising us by drilling further and updating, it's basically feels like they're saying that, you know, we're hitting deeper than what we expected, whatever. Hey, we're already down to 200 meters. And that could, okay, maybe, you know, it went down to 150 meters, then they, you know, canceled the holes. No, then we get another update. So I hope you understand what I mean here. It's like if you put yourself in their shoes, I mean, what would you as the company or operator, what would you need to see coming out of that hole to do what they are doing here, to update like this, and to update it all? Update it all, that's a bias skew by definition, because you don't want to have eyes looking on something when you think it's going to be bad, because then people are going to pester you about, it's like, where's the assays, and you're like, shit, this is going to be crap. So it's like, and why would you go past the planned depth and be very public about going past the planned depth? Because if we assumed, it's because they didn't hit anything and they're for some reason are going way deeper, then they would probably communicate like, hey, you know, we're going past average depth in hopes to find a porphyry or whatever, while it's colored in the high sulfidation target area and the AuCu porphyry target area is here. So it's like I'm trying to twist and turn like the reasoning. Why would you put this up? Why would you put it up like this? Bias skew to begin with. They want attention. They want to signal something to the market. And it's not like they drilled it to they didn't, you know, drill 300 meter, then said, well, okay, we get no update, and all of a sudden we terminated the hole at 300 meter, or it's, you know, it's completed 300 meter. No, they're updating while they're drilling, which suggests that they're kind of getting surprised, or they didn't have a plan how deep. It's like, okay, well, we're past 200 meters and we're still in it. Okay, they obviously are not saying that. They're very tight-lipped about what they're actually seeing. But it's like, again, we can infer some stuff. What would you need as an operator to see to put it out, put these tweets out, and how the way they put it out? To me, it sounds like they're drilling, and it's like, okay, planned depth might be 150, but they're like, hey, this rock still looks good. Let's continue to drill. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, guys, we're at 200 meters and we're still in something, let's say. Okay? Don't give any assays. Don't give up out too much, but it's like, give them a, I mean, because they're not lying, obviously. So it's not like they're, you know, pumping. It's like, oh, you know, 200 meters of ore or something like that. Everything looks great. There's, you know, I don't expect to see any visible gold, but you know what I mean. No, they're just, this is the lowest key form of hinting that, hey, this looks good. We're still in something. Because here, as well, it's like they haven't put out anything about when they're terminating. So it sounds, again, like what they're seeing, they're just continuing until they, you know, don't see what they're seeing right now. That's what this feels like. Do we know the grades? Nope. Do we know that it might not simply be that they're going further for trying to hit the porphyry, again, like a Hail Mary? That's not out of the question, but that makes it weird to have constant updates about drill, because this is like, I would only do this if I'm trying to signal that we're in something and then we're still in something. If they ended the silicified zone at 50 meters, I wouldn't be, and you know, you hadn't hit anything for the next 100 meters or 150 meters when you're down to 200 meters. I wouldn't really be bragging about that, if you know what I mean. I wouldn't put it out there. I think that's like, we're at 200 meters and still hit nothing. Why would you continue drilling in that case? You have 14 other holes planned. Why would you push the cost of the first hole if you're not hitting anything? And if you're going for the porphyry, why are you talking about the drill pace? Or why is this open-ended? You're not even saying what depth you're going to terminate the hole at. This sounds like a positive, an evolving positive, no, I should say, continuously positive surprises visually in the core, in the drill hole. That's what this sounds like. That's the only explanation that, not only, but that makes the most sense to me. And again, I shouldn't say funny thing, but it's like, the thing is, with this, I should find the, oh, and they have a bunch of other targets as well, or projects, I should say. Oh, that's not the. So this shows it, I guess, a bit better. So this is where they have this hole colored, and the actual alteration is huge. I mean, they got hydrothermal breccia popping up here as well. So they're gonna drill. I think this outcrops for. I would probably need to find my. Let's see here. This is the outcrop. I think they basically put, I don't know if they have if this is the boundary or something for the project, whatever. Maybe. So in that case, if this is the boundary, we assume this is the hole they're drilling now, and that's at the claim boundary, and let's say this line here is the claim boundary. Not 100% sure. In that case, they would be drilling it right here. And you can see like the sulfide chargeability, or low chargeability silica oxides. This is basically the target blanket. And I think this runs for like 800 meters. And I think they think it's at least like 600 meters thick. I assume that might be, well, actually, might it be beyond that? Hard to say. Hard to say exactly what. You know, if it's like this, if you know what I mean, here. Anyway, and it might be extend well beyond that. So this is like the first pocket target in this actual potential high sulfidation epithermal district. But given the preliminary footprint of this deposit, I did some calculations, and I used average thickness of 150 meters. And if we have 800 meters strike length, that's basically how far they have outcropping mineralization. I mean, think about that. You already have kind of one dimension, which is strike, outcropping. You're in the ore body. You can't get much better de-risking than that. And they believe it's like 5, I think actually Quinton said like 600, that they found mineralization on the other side, which I guess would be like okay, they found here, but they also found it, I don't know, here or something, or maybe it's that, I don't know. But still, okay, let's just go. I mean, they might know more, let's say, than we know, for, I mean, given how many hurdles they had to go through just to be able to drill this. So I would forgive them for not wanting to spill all the beans. Or yeah, maybe it's this, or maybe actually it's this here. Well, that's like what, 500 meters perhaps? Okay, so yeah, so let's say 800 by 500, average thickness of this expected to be 150 meters. If we just use the gold equivalent grades from the ledges here. If we use this and we take the lower interval, like 1 gram per ton gold, 100 gram per ton silver. I don't remember what actual gold silver ratio I use, but I bet it hasn't changed that much. In that case, if the AU equivalent grade would be 200 meters with an 800 by 500 and 150 meters deep blanket type deposit, that could be 10 million ounces gold equivalent at gold equivalent grade of 2 grams per ton. That would be a world class, I mean, Pierina, for example, that and starting almost at surface. 1 second. So this is why I'm so extremely excited about this target. I have my own calculation. I mean, I could... okay, because seriously, let's say... what's the market cap at? Uh, 60 million. Okay, 60 million. 60 million, it's pricing in at face value 12% chance of finding something worth 500 million. Okay, so that would be what? I don't know, 3 million ounces? A third of, you know, whatever. Blue sky is probably up to 1 billion, 2 billion perhaps. Let's say 1 billion. 60 divided by 6% chance that they find something worth 1 billion. 6% chance that this is 800 by 500 and 150 meters thick on average. And I'm using the kind of, I guess, lowest grade. Obviously we see that the silver grades can go way up, and we know Pierina, for example, and not that everything was, it wasn't a homogeneous blanket, it had feeder zones or whatever. So and I mean, some the discovery holes at Pierina, or the holes at Pierina, they were much higher than 1 gram per ton AU equivalent or 2 gram per ton AU equivalent, despite the fact that at surface the soil sampling whatever showed like 0.5 to 1 gram per ton, or 1.59 perhaps. But if you look at this in AU equivalent terms, this is like 4 grams per ton. This is like 4 grams per ton. This is like, I mean, almost 4 grams per ton as well. And let's say, you know, 4 or 5 grams per ton, whatever. These are very good grades. And if the more untouched stuff at depth is even better, well, and going back to the mystery, main mystery, why are they drilling so deep? 300 meters. Could they be still in the blanket and it's like 300 meters thick? Maybe, but it might also be a case of, where did I have that? It might also be a case of them being in the Lepanto feeder. Lepanto style feeder, I think. Here's the Lepanto, another high sulfidation deposit. As you can see, there's a bunch of faults here, smaller faults, and you know they kind of drag, you know, the alteration, I guess the quartz alunite and whatever. So I mean, it gets vertically stretched. But this is 100 meters. This is like, what's that, like 200 meters or whatever. So it might be a case that, and that doesn't mean that it all runs, because it's the dark blue stuff here that's actually the ore zone, I'm pretty sure. But the only place here where you would drill, or you would see something I think interesting for 300 meters, is pretty much in the main feeder zone, or near these, I guess, like, you know, micro faults or secondary faults or whatever you would call it. Other than that, I don't really, in this type of situation at least, I don't really see where you would keep drilling for 300 meters. Because if you're drilling this stuff, or the more blanket type like this is not 300 meters. Here you're going, if you're doing vertical holes, I mean, you would pretty much have to be in the feeder to at least have the let's say best looking stuff still in the core when you drill 300 meters. So there is a chance that, well, I think at least, that here that this might be a feeder or one of the feeders, or it's just maybe an incredibly thick blanket, or maybe the blanket was thick and they're going for the porphyry as well when they're already there. But again, going back to my point here, this rhymes with them getting positive surprises in the core, and step by step keep on drilling and update, hinting that, hey, we're 200 meters depth and we're still continuing, we're seeing something still, and then updating, we're continuing 300 meters, because otherwise why would you do this many updates, especially if it's like you're a pretty quiet company. It's like this is attracting people to it. Sure, okay, would you do that if you were just looking to pump or whatever? It's like, well, I doubt it. I doubt it very much, because this is not overly pumpy. They don't even mention mineralization. They don't even mention what they see. They just say we'll keep on drilling. So it's, I think, the lowest key version of, guys, we're in something, without over promoting it. So that's what I think is happening. We might perhaps be in a feeder. Of course, there is a scenario where it's like they might be in silification. They might see interesting stuff. But when we get the assay results, it's crap. That's a possibility. But I believe visually they are extending this first hole way beyond what I would think was planned depth, simply because they have a reason to continue. Whatever they're seeing that looks probably good is continuing at depth. And that's why we also don't get a planned termination point or whatever. And why it's just increasingly going farther and farther, or further and further down than average planned depth. That's how I read the situation. Otherwise I can't really, again, attention, that's like a bias skew from the get-go, because that's what companies do. They report visuals when they're good, they don't report when they're not good. So this is like they're hinting at something, and it sounds good. And again, don't know what exactly prompted them. Yeah, that's my read, at least. This is so exciting. It's like I don't know. I mean, regardless of what actually happens, when this drill campaign is done, either I'm gonna feel, like always, that I didn't buy enough or I had too much, because I have a very big position in Condor already. And like I discussed in the forum today, it's like there is obviously merit to, like, okay, let's see what the holes actually are, taking away the kind of assay risk, because there's still a chance that despite this that they don't find much. Of course, again, it's that would be somewhat surprising, given that this is just an arbitrary window of the ore zone and they're seeing really good grades. And this is expected to be a kind of a blanket type deposit, and they're going way past their planned drill depth. That together, I mean, Occam's razor would suggest that yes, what they're drilling, they should hit something mineralized right from the get-go. And if they extend the drilling and updating us like this, which has a bias skew, this might be a monster. That's what it looks like. At face value, that's how I would read it. But with that said, there are no guarantees. That's why I'm not, all in. But I have a very large position. And the question is, given that it's priced in maybe a 6% chance of finding something worth $1 billion. And it looks like it's actually getting better. Because this for sure, I think, changed the risk-adjusted value, even though the market hasn't really, let's say, the market has not really priced in what I think they're trying to say. Still, there's no guarantees. So either my pretty large position might be at a 50% loss in, let's say, 2 months, or this is actually remarkably as good as it looks, or even better. And in 6 months, when they've drilled more holes, I'll be sitting at a 500% profit, and the portfolio will almost have doubled. I don't know, or anything in between. Still, the question is, okay, and I'm fighting with this myself. Should I buy more now or later? Should I wait for? The thing is that if they hit and it opens up 100% higher, my position will already be enormous. But still, if they hit, if this is a whopper of a hole, if it opens up at 120 million, let's say, that might be super cheap in light of what they just drilled. So my now doubled position should still be increased, which is kind of crazy to even think about, but that's a possibility. That's obviously the more low risk approach. So that's what I'm fighting between. The thing is, if this is a monster hole, let's say it opens up 100 or even 200% higher, and it's hard to get any shares. Yeah, I don't know. This is the fun part, actually. It's like theory crafting. Because in hindsight, it will be obvious. If this is turns out to be a whopper of a discovery hole, let's say on the first try, we're obviously going to have huge regret and say, it's like, well, they colored the hole right above where we know it's mineralized. They suggested that, hey guys, we're still in whatever, or this still looks good up to, let's say, I mean, it might have started to look bad at 250 meters, but at least at 200 meters, maybe up to 300 meters, it was still looking good. Like, we're in a feeder zone, and it's the feeder zone that's expected to have the highest grade to boot. Unfortunately, there are no assays here. Maybe, okay, they didn't have assays here, but I think like they drill holes like this, and 80 meters of like 9 grams per ton or something. So I have no idea. I just know there's gonna be regret either way, and I can see, again, given how I interpret this, I can see that, okay, news comes out. It's like, of course it was a monster hole, because, well, they kind of said it. This is probably going to be a monster hole, and we already kind of know that they should be hitting something, because this mineralization suddenly doesn't stop 5 meters away, and they're drilling way deep, which suggests that it might be in a feeder zone, which would be even higher grades than what you would expect from the blanket portion of the deposit. The more where is it? The more distal parts. That's like, it's grading up towards the feeder zone, and then lower and lower grades away from it. So if we're drilling the feeder right now, that should be a whammer of a hole. We don't 100% know that, And there's of course the scenario where it's like, we get the results, and it's like, for whatever reason, they drilled something, maybe it was silicified, but there's no grades, and we're like, oh crap. Despite, the good mineralization for like 800 meters, for some reason it stopped, or actually undercover when you're deeper down the grade just disappears, whatever. It's like, does that sound likely? I don't think it sounds likely. Is there a possibility that I'm gonna be regretting? It's like, oh, I should have waited for the first assays. Of course, that is the trade-off between risk and reward. It's more risky to get in before the assay results, and typically it's before the first assays at least. Typically that's also a bad idea. But this is a pretty unique case in my opinion. I actually think this has higher chance of success of becoming something substantial than most majority of exploration plays that have already made a discovery hole. Because for the reason being, you have 800 meters of outcrops, mineralized outcrops. We know the deposit model, everything lines up, and especially given that they're drilling this to 300 meters all of a sudden, starting from where we know there's mineralized outcrops. If I had to bet, things look good and look better and are exceeding expectations, at least visually. Then there has to be a case of they're drilling something interesting, but for whatever reason there's no grade. Or they're doing a Hail Mary to hit the porphyry on the first try, despite the fact that the AUC porphyry target is expected to be up here. Or unless there is a mistake and the first hole is actually here. But it will make total sense to start off with something highest probability of success in the actual outcrop, given that the high sulfidation target area is the main prize. The porphyry is like a secondary bonus target. So yeah, I guess now it's gonna be pure terror in these next two, because everything points that this could be the real deal. Well, okay, here they have actually high sulfidation ledges. So I guess that's where they get the widths from. Yeah, no, one of the most interesting stories around. Yeah, I think that's actually gonna be it for this video. I was planning on covering New Gold, Red Pine and Brixton, but I've already had so much fun with Condor. I'll stop the recording here. Consider me very biased. I own quite a bit of shares of Condor Resources. They're not a banner sponsor, but I'm very biased, and there's no guarantees. I'm betting pretty big, because I think it looks it's almost a unique exploration story in my book. And I mean the target itself and all that, and I don't think 60 million is a fair value for how big this system looks or could be and what the chance of success is, especially after they go about doing these tweets. Yeah, just my 2 cents. I don't share your profits or your losses. Don't never bet everything on a single play. It's like I'm gonna do a video about that. It's like, you should be mentally prepared already for worst case scenario, kinda. Like, fast forward, for whatever reason they drill, everything is dusters, they don't find anything. Can you live with that? Or do you succumb? It's like, nope, I bet it all. I'm down 50%. I'm gonna go into a deep depression, whatever. Or can you look at, okay, that were to happen, already have that, like already digest the negative outcome. Yes, get to grip with the fact that there might be a future where, regardless of how good this is, it ended up being a nothing burger. You're down 50%. So it doesn't come as a complete shock. You go on tilt and then you start to do a lot of stupid moves. No, this is a calculated risk. So I'm prepared for anything. I wouldn't be too surprised if this was a whammer of a hole, and within a month or so we open up at least 100% higher. Because I think that if this hole is good, there might actually just say that and put that out immediately. Otherwise, if this hole is really bad, they might wait until they hit something, if they hit something at all, to put it out. That's hard to plan on, obviously, but still, be already prepared. Imagine the scenario where it goes south and accept that that's a potential future scenario. And you should then still be happy. It's like, if I think about it, it's like, yeah, there's a future I'm going to be down 50% in Condor. If I try to simulate that kind of future, if I'm down 50%, if I play around with the idea that yes, in 2 months I'm down 50%, whatever. So I'm thinking I'm there right now. Would I go back looking at all this and say, yeah, it was obviously a stupid mistake? No, I don't think so. Again, to my point, that's outcome dependent. I cannot see right now why this is not a good bet. Maybe one of the best out there. From a, quote, high risk, high reward perspective. Because even if they miss, and I'm down 50%, I can see how I can come up with another conclusion that this looks good right now. What is it that I would be missing right now? Except for the, let's say, confirmation. But that's where we must take some risk in order to have some rewards, right? But from a calculated risk perspective, yes, knowing the fact that we don't have assays, but everything we know about Pucamayo, and with these updates, it is suggesting that, for all we know, this is actually could be as good as it looks. And that might be a higher than a 50% chance. And if that's the case, I would say that Condor is ridiculously undervalued at 60 million. Because it's pricing in a 6% chance of being worth $1 billion. So no, I don't think in a potential future where for some whatever reason there is nothing here, I don't think I will look back and say, yeah, it was kind of obvious, or yeah, it was a stupid bet. I don't think that's going to happen. If it goes south, I think this was still one of the best bets out there right now. And of course, if it goes well, it's going to be quite easy to digest that, yes, actually everything was pointing to this being one of the best targets out there. Again, especially in light of the hints coming from the company. Yeah, anyway, don't bet, invest money you can't afford to lose. I'm biased. I don't share your profits or your losses. These are just how I'm thinking about this situation. And it's like, I don't know how I'm gonna. If I was expecting to have a higher reaction in the stock after drilling, and especially after these, hints, I wouldn't have been surprised for us to be at 60-80 cents already. And in that case, I probably would have taken some money off the table, unless we had other newer context that's like whatever update, but on no additional news. Like if we get up to 60, 80, and my, the already big position is up 50 to, what is it? I don't know, 50%, whatever. Yeah, I might take some money off the table, because then I'm, price is higher without any new information. It might still be very cheap, but not as cheap as it is now, for obvious reasons. Because I don't want to hear anything like, well, why don't you tell, oh, you sold some or whatever. It's like I think I have a very large position already, and some would call me crazy for having this much and not selling. But that's just, again, you do what feels right for you. I'm just saying what I'm thinking right now, and I'm biased. I have a vested interest of seeing this stock go up because I have a lot of shares. But I at least hope it makes sense why I have a lot of shares right now. Thanks for listening. Bye.